This is the richest black family in Atlanta. Black Mecca. Atlanta isn't just the capital of hip-hop or reality TV, there's a deeper empire hiding in plain sight. Imagine a city where black families don't just live in luxury. They own the land, the businesses, the airports, and even the studios Hollywood rents to survive. We're talking about fortunes built over generations, so massive they make typical celebrity wealth look like spare change. Today on Legends of Black Excellence, we're uncovering the richest black power circles in Atlanta and the dynasty sitting at the very top. Stay with me because number one will change how you define wealth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Levitt family. In Atlanta, the Levitt family represents a different kind of high achievement. One built not on spotlight or trend, but on steadiness, care, and a reputation that families lean on during life's hardest hours. Their story begins with Gregory B. Levitt Sr. and his wife, Betty Levitt, who opened a single funeral home in Scottdale, Georgia, in August 1980. The original location was about 5,000 square feet, modest by today's standards, yet huge in ambition. In a city where many businesses rise and fall quickly, they chose a path that demanded patience. Serve well, serve consistently, and let trust compound over time. Over 4 decades, that approach turned into a widely recognized funeral service network across metropolitan Atlanta. The company grew from one chapel into 4, adding locations in places like Decatur, Conyers, and Lawrenceville, plus an off-site crematory. Today, their organization serves more than 200 families each year, an operational scale that puts them among the most active family-run providers in the region. Their workforce has expanded, with the business employing well over 100 people, including multiple licensed funeral directors available around the clock. In other words, what looks like a quiet industry from the outside is in reality a complex operation that requires logistics, staffing, facilities management, and emotional skill at the same time. What separates the Levitt name in Atlanta isn't only size, though. It's the idea that a farewell should feel dignified and personal, regardless of a family's background. Their chapels are designed to offer comfort and calm, with large visitation areas, modern memorial technology, and on-site spaces that allow families to gather privately. Over the years, they've also promoted pre-planning and grief support programs, helping people prepare ahead of time and providing structured environments for healing after loss. That blend service before the need and support after the ceremony has helped reinforce their long-term bond with the community. Halfway through this story, it's fair to pause and ask, when you think about true wealth, do you picture loud success or lasting service? That question sits right at the center of why the Levitt family matters in the Black Mecca conversation. In Atlanta, their prosperity is tied to reliability. A family does not choose a homegoing provider casually. They choose the name they trust to carry memory with care. And when thousands make the same choice year after year, a business becomes something closer to a civic institution. Another part of their legacy is how the Levitt family has kept the company rooted in family leadership. Gregory B. Levitt Sr. is a third-generation funeral director, and the business has intentionally trained and elevated the next generation to protect the continuity of standards and values. This is a crucial distinction in an era when many independent funeral homes are acquired by large national chains. The Levitt organization remains family-owned and family-operated, which allows them to control quality, preserve culture, and decide how they grow without pressure from outside investors. That independence also keeps more of the wealth circulating through Black enterprise in Atlanta. Then there's their public impact. The family's philanthropy has been significant enough that community institutions have recognized them for giving back. They've supported health, youth, and civic programs, and their foundation work emphasizes local uplift rather than distant branding. In a city where generosity is often performed for visibility, the Levitt approach feels more grounded. Invest in the people who invested in you first. Financially, funeral service is a business that thrives on consistency rather than volatility. Demand doesn't depend on fashion or the economy. But sustaining excellence in that space is difficult. It requires maintaining facilities that people feel safe entering during grief training staff to handle sensitive moments without mistakes, and keeping a reputation spotless across generations. The Levitt family has done that in a marketplace where trust is everything. Their scale, their stability, and their community standing together explain why they show up in conversations about Atlanta's most powerful Black families. So while other names in the city might be linked to stadiums, airports, music catalogs, or movie lots, the Levitt family's wealth grows from something equally important: stewardship of the final chapter of life. Their empire is not built on spectacle. It is built on being chosen again and again when families need strength most. And in Atlanta, that kind of chosen status doesn't just create income, it creates legacy. Mac Wilborn. Mac Wilborn is one of those Atlanta figures whose fortune was never built for the cameras. His wealth came from something far less glamorous but far more reliable understanding where people must go and serving them better than anyone else once they arrive. In a city famous for celebrity success, Wilborn's story is a reminder that the biggest empires are often created by operators who master the unseen gears of everyday life. Long before his name was linked to Hartsfield Jackson, Wilborn spent years building a foundation in franchising. He entered fast food when it was still a frontier for Black ownership, learning the business from the inside out. Labor schedules, supply chains, traffic cycles, margins, and the small details that turn a restaurant into a machine. He eventually owned and ran multiple McDonald's locations for more than 2 decades. In 1992, he sold that group. For many people, that would have been the finish line. For Wilborn, it was the starting gun for the real race. His next move was audacious. He targeted the airport. Not just any airport, but Atlanta's already one of the busiest travel hubs on Earth and destined to become the world leader in passenger volume. Getting a foothold there wasn't a matter of luck. Airport concessions are fiercely competitive, bounded by strict regulations and dominated by candidates with deep political and financial networks. Yet, in 1996, Wilborn won the right to open a Popeyes inside Hartsfield Jackson. That first counter was his proof of concept. If he could thrive in a setting where customers are stressed, rushed, and constantly shifting, he could thrive anywhere. What followed was not overnight success, but methodical expansion. Wilborn built Mac 2 Inc. into a portfolio of airport restaurants that reads like a map of travelers' cravings: Popeyes, Checkers, Atlanta Bread, and Bar Baja Fresh, Familia, Pizza, We Juice It, and more. These weren't average franchise locations either. His 2 Popeyes units inside the airport have repeatedly been among the highest-grossing Popeyes restaurants in the entire global system. His Checkers location has also ranked at or near the top worldwide. Those are not marketing claims. Those are sales realities recognized by brand performance tracking. In franchising terms, that's like having not one but multiple championship stores operating under your roof. And volume at Hartsfield Jackson is staggering. The airport routinely handles well over 100 million passengers a year. That means even a small percentage of those travelers choosing your counter translates into millions of transactions annually. But high traffic alone doesn't guarantee riches. Airports are unforgiving. Rent is high, labor turnover can be brutal. Security rules create constant friction, and the customer base resets every hour. The only way to stay on top in that environment is operational excellence, tight staffing, fast service, smart inventory control, and leadership that keeps standards stable under pressure. Wilborn's record suggests he developed a system that performs like a well-tuned engine, regardless of season or surge. His business footprint also extends beyond restaurants. He has operated major vending and beverage programs at the airport for years, capturing sales from travelers who want the fastest possible option. Think about that strategy. If your restaurant counters serve the people willing to stand in line, vending serves everyone who won't. It's the same river of passengers harvested through multiple nets. That kind of layered thinking is a hallmark of serious wealth builders. What makes Wilborn especially significant in Atlanta's Black wealth landscape is where his power sits. Many fortunes are tied to cycles, housing booms, entertainment trends, market bubbles. His fortune is tied to movement. As long as people travel, as long as Atlanta remains a central gateway to the country and the world, his businesses sit in the golden path. That stability is part of why his story resonates with older audiences. It reflects a classic American model of prosperity. Learn the trade master. The fundamentals, pick the right location, then outwork and outrun the competition for decades. There's also a quiet cultural layer to his rise. In a field where large corporations often crowd out local ownership, Wilborn became the rare franchise operator whose presence grew over time rather than shrinking. That takes more than skill. It takes resilience, relationships, and performance so strong that decision-makers keep renewing your seat at the table. People in Atlanta's business circles have long referred to him as an airport institution, not because he seeks visibility, but because his consistency made him part of the airport's identity. So when you hear the phrase "richest black families in Atlanta," don't imagine only sprawling estates or headline-grabbing names. Imagine a man who saw the world's busiest airport as a modern marketplace, secured a foothold there, then built a revenue fortress by being the best operator in the building. Mac Wilborn didn't just sell chicken and fries. He sold efficiency to humanity on the move and turned that service into one of Atlanta's quietest, strongest dynasties. Bronner family. The Bronner family's story is inseparable from Atlanta's identity as a Black Mecca because their empire wasn't built by chasing fame. It was built by owning culture, then building an industry around it. In a city where black creativity has always been a source of economic power, the Bronners recognized something: early hair care is not a side market. For Black America, it is a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem tied to confidence, community, and generational tradition. And they position themselves at the center of that ecosystem for decades. The origin begins in the late 1940s. Two brothers, Dr. Nathaniel H. Bronner Sr. and Arthur E. Bronner Sr., started teaching cosmetology classes at a YMCA in Atlanta. Their first mission was education, making sure black women and men had professional skills that could turn into stable incomes. From those classes grew a company that would eventually be known nationwide. Bronner Brothers, one of the largest black-owned hair care manufacturers in the United States. The early products were designed for a market often ignored by mainstream brands, focusing on textures, needs, and styles that black consumers understood intimately. Over time, what started as a local operation evolved into a large-scale manufacturer serving salons, barbers, and households across the country and globally. But the Bronner family didn't stop at making products. Their genius was in building a complete loop, a marketplace where they could educate professionals, set trends, sell goods, and reinforce brand loyalty all in one cycle. That loop became the Bronner Brothers International Beauty Show, hosted for years in Atlanta at the Georgia World Congress Center. For a long stretch, this event functioned like the Fashion Week of Black beauty. Depending on the era, attendance was often reported in the tens of thousands, drawing stylists, barbers, vendors, and educators from across the U.S., the Caribbean, Africa, and Europe. People didn't just come to watch demonstrations. They came to buy in bulk, compete, recruit, and learn what black beauty would look like next year. The show helped Atlanta earn global recognition as a capital of multicultural style and technique. Here's the heart of what made the show so powerful. It turned a community need into a travel destination economy. When thousands of professionals come to one city to spend on booths, hotels, meals, and inventory, that city gains a predictable surge of revenue. And the Bronners were the architects of that surge year after year. They were not renting influence from someone else. They were the ones creating the space where the influence was born. Halfway through, let me throw a quick question back to you. Have you ever seen a business that sells products and controls the stage where the whole industry decides what to buy? That's what the Bronners built. They owned the goods, they owned the gathering, and they helped shape the conversation about black hair on a national scale. It was vertical integration before the term became trendy on business podcasts. Their reach extended beyond commerce into media and messaging. The family launched and supported beauty publications and professional networks that kept stylists connected to new techniques and new product lines. In an era before social media made trends viral overnight, the Bronner pipeline was how many Black professionals learned what was next. That gave the company a rare form of control not only over supply, but over taste. When a brand shapes taste, it becomes more than a vendor, it becomes a cultural compass. Faith and community leadership also weave through their legacy. Bishop Dale C. Bronner, a member of the family, leads the Word of Faith Family Worship Cathedral, one of Atlanta's most prominent megachurches. Whether or not a person shares that tradition, it's hard to deny the role churches have played in Black civic life, supporting families, mobilizing charity, and offering networks that help small businesses grow. The Bronner blend of enterprise and ministry reflects a classic Atlanta pattern: prosperity linked with stewardship and business success tied to public presence. In recent years, the beauty show has been paused while the family rethinks its future direction. Some businesses pause because they are shrinking. Others pause because they are preparing for a new model. The Bronner brand remains a recognizable pillar in Black hair care, and the foundation they built, products, professional education, and cultural authority, still carries weight. Even if the event returns in a different format, its decades-long imprint cannot be erased. For many stylists, the Bronner show was not just a convention. It was a rite of passage. What makes the Bronner family crucial to Atlanta's wealth map is that their fortune is not tied to a single celebrity moment or a single real estate play. It is tied to a market they helped legitimize, then dominated through consistency. They kept ownership in family hands across generations, resisting the pressure to sell out to larger corporations that often try to buy cultural brands once they reach scale. That choice matters. It protects local control, keeps economic benefits rooted in the community, and ensures the wealth story does not end with a paycheck, it continues with a legacy. So when we talk about Atlanta's richest Black families, the Bronners belong in that conversation, not only because of money, but because of impact. They built one of the most important Black-owned beauty powerhouses in America, elevated thousands of professionals, and helped make Atlanta a global headquarters for Black style. Their wealth is the kind that grows from understanding a people, serving their needs with excellence, and then owning the platform where their creativity shines. Egbert Perry. Egbert L.J. Perry is not a headline celebrity, but in Atlanta's story of Black prosperity, he is one of the city's true architects. His influence lives in streets, neighborhoods, and policy models that reshaped how American cities rebuild themselves. If some fortunes are made by selling a product, Perry's has grown by rethinking the very structure of urban life, how people live, where they gather, and what a healthy community needs to survive. Perry was born in Antigua and Barbuda and came to the United States with a global perspective and a builder's discipline. He entered real estate and construction in the late 1970s, and by the early 1980s, he was already working inside Atlanta's rising Black business class. Before launching his own firm, he helped grow an Atlanta-based development and construction company into what was described at the time as the nation's third largest Black-owned business. That early experience mattered. It taught him how large projects are financed, how government partnerships work, and how to scale without losing control of mission. In 1993, Perry co-founded the Integral Group based in Atlanta. From day one, Integral was not designed as a conventional developer chasing quick profit. Its stated mission was to create value in cities and rebuild the fabric of communities. That may sound like a slogan until you look at what came next. The breakthrough project was Centennial Place. In 1994, with major phases completed by 1996, Integral partnered with the Atlanta Housing Authority and other collaborators to redevelop the distressed Techwood Clark Howell public housing site near downtown Atlanta. Instead of rebuilding the old model of concentrated poverty, Perry pushed a new idea: a mixed-use, mixed-income neighborhood where market-rate homeowners and subsidized residents lived side by side, supported by real amenities, schools, early childhood programs, recreation spaces, and retail. Centennial Place became widely recognized as the first major mixed-income redevelopment of its kind in the United States, and federal housing leaders later promoted it as a national model. Over time, its approach inspired hundreds of similar projects nationwide. In plain language, Perry helped write a new playbook for U.S. housing renewal. Integral expanded far beyond one neighborhood. Under Perry's leadership, the firm grew into a sizable operation, often reported around 300 employees working across multiple states. Their portfolio includes transit-oriented communities, mixed-use districts, and large urban sites, where public needs and private capital intersect. Integral also built subsidiaries for property management, investment management, and program consulting, allowing the company to guide a project from planning through long-term operation. That kind of vertical control is rare in city redevelopment, and it helped Integral compete at a national level. One of Perry's most visible Atlanta area efforts in recent years has been the transformation of the former General Motors assembly plant site in Doraville, a massive 162-acre property north of the city. The vision is a city within a city housing commerce, green space, and mobility designed to reconnect land that once served industry into a modern, human-centered district. It's a long game, exactly the kind of work Perry has always favored. Perry's influence also extends into national finance. After the 2008 mortgage crisis, he was asked to join the board of Fannie Mae, the U.S. housing finance giant. He later became chairman of the board, serving in that role until 2018. That position placed him at the center of America's recovery in home lending and affordability, one of the highest impact economic seats in the country. Beyond Fannie Mae, he has served on or chaired boards connected to civic development, healthcare, and education, including long service as a trustee of the University of Pennsylvania and roles tied to Atlanta's civic growth organizations. What makes Egbert Perry essential to Atlanta's Black wealth story is that his success was never a solo climb. He built prosperity by designing environments where thousands of families could thrive, then proving that those environments could attract investment without displacing dignity. His work sits at the crossroads of economics and ethics, make redevelopment profitable, yes, but also make it livable. So when people talk about Atlanta's richest Black figures, remembering Perry matters. Some leaders shape culture, others shape skylines. Perry helped shape the future rules of American urban life. And that kind of legacy is measured not just in dollars, but in the neighborhood still standing long after the applause fades. Russell family. The Russell family stands among Atlanta's most consequential business lineages because their wealth was forged in steel drywall and the slow, stubborn work of building a city that once tried to shut them out. Where some fortunes come from entertainment or trend-driven markets, the Russell story comes from contracts won against the odds, neighborhoods lifted by development, and a company that helped define modern Atlanta's physical shape. It starts with Herman J. Russell, born in 1930 in Summerhill, a poor Black neighborhood near downtown. He learned plastering as a boy beside his father, Rogers Russell, and by his teens, he was already hustling for independence, running a shoe shine stand, buying tiny parcels of land, and teaching himself how projects come together from the ground up. He attended Tuskegee Institute, majoring in building construction, and returned home determined to create a firm that could compete in an industry that rarely welcomed Black leadership. In the early 1950s, he launched what became H.J. Russell & Company, first focused on plastering and fireproofing, then expanding into full-scale construction management and property development. Herman Russell's timing met his talent. During the 1960s and 1970s, Atlanta was growing fast, but the door to major commercial work was still barely open for Black contractors. Russell pushed through by building a reputation for reliability and by nurturing partnerships that allowed his company to move from residential projects into headline commercial jobs. One of his early breakthroughs came in 1963 when his firm earned work on the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, a stepping stone into larger civic and corporate projects. Over the following decades, H.J. Russell and Company became one of the largest minority-owned construction and real estate businesses in the United States, a title it held for years. If you look at Atlanta's landmark list from the late 20th century, the Russell name keeps appearing. The company served as general contractor or major partner on the Coca-Cola headquarters tower, completed in 1987, helped shape the Georgia Pacific Complex, contributed to expansions at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, and handled major roles in venues such as the Georgia Dome, Turner Field, and later stadium transformations around the city. Their portfolio also includes hospitals, libraries, universities, parks, transit projects, and civic buildings work that doesn't just sit on a balance sheet, but becomes part of daily life for millions of residents. The firm's influence is literally walkable. If you drive downtown, attend a game, fly out of Atlanta, or pass through certain public institutions, you are moving through spaces the Russells helped bring to reality. How different would Atlanta feel today if black builders had never been allowed to leave their fingerprints on its skyline? The Russells answered that question with concrete proof. The family's strength wasn't only construction, it was diversification with purpose. Herman Russell expanded into real estate development, property management, and airport concessions. Those moves ensured the family wasn't dependent on one sector's ups and downs. Over time, the Russell ecosystem came to include multiple related organizations, construction and development arms, investment entities, and a concessions business that operates food and beverage services in airports across the country. That breadth is why the family's financial foundation has remained sturdy even as the economy shifted. A critical milestone arrived when Herman Russell made succession a priority while he was still alive. After retiring from daily operations in the early 2000s, he placed leadership into the hands of his children, Michael Russell H. Jerome Russell and Donata Russell Ross, and guided them in carrying the business forward. This transition matters. Many successful founders fail to pass the torch cleanly. The Russells did it deliberately, preserving continuity while letting the next generation modernize strategy. One of the clearest examples of that next chapter vision is the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, RICE, a roughly 54,000 square foot hub located on Fair Street in Atlanta's historic Auburn Avenue area. The family donated and helped renovate the building to create a place where black founders can find mentoring, co-working, capital connections, and business training. In effect, they turned part of their own success into a launch pad for others. It's not just charity. It's economic gardening, planting seeds for the next wave of black enterprise in the city. The Russells also carry an imprint in Atlanta's civic history. Herman Russell was an early supporter and confidant of civil rights leadership. His home and networks were part of the broader movement that pushed Atlanta toward becoming a center of black political and economic power. That context helps explain why the family's achievements resonate beyond business rankings. They're tied to a wider fight for access, representation, and self-determined prosperity. Today, the Russell name stands for something rare, a family that built wealth by building Atlanta itself, school by school, terminal by terminal, stadium by stadium, then used that position to strengthen the community that made their rise possible. Their story is a reminder that the most enduring fortunes aren't always the loudest ones. Sometimes they are the ones you can see in the skyline, feel in the infrastructure, and trace through generations who learned to keep constructing the future. Rick Ross. Rick Ross is a fascinating Atlanta area wealth story because he represents a modern Southern path to power entertainment as ignition assets, as the engine, and land as the long game. Born William Leonard Roberts II, Ross didn't just buy a big house to celebrate success. He bought acreage to institutionalize it. In the Black Mecca conversation, that shift from showing wealth to anchoring it is why his name lands on lists beside old guard dynasties. Ross first became nationally visible through music in the mid-2000s, building a catalog that created serious cash flow. But what separates him from many peers is how aggressively he converted that flow into tangible holdings. His most famous purchase came in 2014 when he acquired Evander Holyfield's former estate in Fayetteville, Georgia, roughly 30 miles south of Atlanta. The reported sale price was about $5.8 million. What he received for that price was extraordinary: 235 acres of land and a mansion widely cited at around 54,000 square feet with 109 rooms. In Georgia, that scale is almost unheard of for a private residence. The property includes a grand staircase entrance, multiple guest quarters, a bowling alley, recording spaces, and a pool often described as one of the largest residential pools in the nation. Yet the real headline isn't square footage. It's what Ross did with it. He branded the estate the Promised Land, turning a personal residence into a platform. Instead of letting the grounds sit idle, he began hosting the Rick Ross Car and Bike Show, transforming the front lawn into a ticketed festival that draws thousands of visitors. That move is key. He didn't merely own luxury, he monetized it. The estate became a venue, a business location, and a marketing engine all at once. In other words, he treated land like a producer treats a stage as a place where revenue can be generated repeatedly. His acreage strategy didn't stop with the original purchase. In recent years, he reportedly added adjacent land, about 87 more acres, expanding the footprint of his Fayetteville compound. That matters because land is the one asset class no one can manufacture more of. In the Atlanta metro, where development keeps pushing outward, controlling hundreds of acres positions you like a small township. Over time, the value doesn't just rise, it multiplies as the region grows closer. Outside real estate, Ross has built a franchise portfolio that mirrors the steady income logic of traditional dynasties. He owns dozens of Wingstop locations across the South and Midwest. He has publicly referenced a count in the mid-20s, plus stakes in other fast service brands such as Checkers Rallies. Franchising works for him the same way it works for airport moguls or construction families: predictable sales, scalable systems, and assets that can be passed forward. Restaurants may not sound glamorous, but they are cash flow machines when placed well and managed with discipline. Ross also leans into consumer goods partnerships that fit his brand spirits, snack lines, and lifestyle collaborations. Yet he tends to funnel proceeds back into ownership rather than endless consumption. He often talks about buying the block, not just buying the car. That mindset is distinctly Atlanta-adjacent, a region where new wealth has learned from old wealth that property and distribution channels are how legacies survive. What's especially compelling for a 45-65 American audience is how Ross's journey echoes older American entrepreneurship themes, even if his starting lane was music. He came from a working-class background, held a regular job before fame, and then built a second career as an investor. It's a blueprint your generation recognizes: earn, reinvest, diversify, and keep the family's future in view. In interviews, he's spoken about paying attention to expenses, even cutting his own grass on the estate as a way to stay grounded and protect margins. Whether that's thrift or symbolism, it reinforces a message many successful builders live by: respect the money, so it respects you back. There's another layer to his wealth story: narrative control. Ross uses his estate and business wins as proof of concept for his audience, turning lifestyle into motivation content. The Promised Land isn't only a residence, it's a billboard that says, "This is what reinvestment looks like." Each car show, each franchise announcement, even each aerial photo of the property adds to a living brand of ownership. So while Rick Ross may have entered Atlanta's wealth conversation through the microphone, he stays there through deeds, acreage, and enterprises that operate long after the music stops playing. In a city defined by Black ownership, he represents a new school land baron, someone who turned fame into foundation and foundation into a modern estate economy that can endure across generations. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry's Atlanta story is one of the clearest examples of how a person can turn hardship into a lasting creative estate, then use that estate to reshape an entire city's economy. He didn't arrive in Georgia as a polished mogul. He arrived as a struggling playwright with a battered car, a box of scripts, and a stubborn refusal to quit. Raised in New Orleans amid poverty and abuse, Perry found escape in writing and faith. In the early 1990s, he moved to Atlanta because it offered something rare for a black artist. At the time, audiences willing to support black theater and a business climate where an outsider could still carve out space. His first stage shows flopped. He remounted them again and again, sometimes to half-empty rooms, financing each attempt with whatever he could hustle together. During those years, he was homeless at times, sleeping in his vehicle and living on hope. That season matters because it explains his later choices once he finally broke through. He never wanted to be dependent on anyone else's gatekeeping again. The breakthrough came through live plays featuring the character Medea, and then through films and television that followed. Perry's work has always spoken directly to a core audience, church-going, working-class black families, especially women who rarely saw their lives treated with dignity in mainstream media. Critics sometimes mocked the style. Audiences showed up anyway. By the 2000s, his plays were filling arenas and his films were opening at #1. But instead of trading that momentum for short-term checks, he focused on something older generations understand well: control the means of production. If you can make the work yourself, distribute it on your terms, and keep the profits inside your own circle, you don't just have a career, you have a platform. That logic led to the move that turned him into Atlanta's wealth heavyweight. In 2015, Perry purchased roughly 330 acres of the old Fort McPherson Army base in southwest Atlanta and began converting it into a fully integrated film and television campus. The site became Tyler Perry Studios, now one of the largest production lots in the United States. The property includes a dozen major sound stages, preserved historic military buildings, and extensive backlot environments, streets, homes, and specialty sets that allow entire series or blockbuster films to be shot without leaving the grounds. There's even a highly detailed White House set used for multiple shows. The scale is the point. When other companies need space in Hollywood of the South, they rent from him. He turned Atlanta's film boom into a toll road that pays him every time traffic passes. If success finally came to you, would you cash out fast or build something no one could take away? Perry chose the second path, and that choice is why his wealth stacks differently from typical celebrity fortune. The numbers reflect it. Recent Forbes reporting continues to place his net worth around $1.4 billion and lists him among the world's few entertainment billionaires. His earnings don't come from one hit or one contract. They come from many streams feeding the same reservoir, a gigantic content library that still sells ongoing series deals, studio rentals, and real estate that keeps appreciating in a fast-growing metro. In addition to the studio grounds, he has owned high-value homes in Atlanta and elsewhere. One of his best-known Atlanta properties was a nearly 35,000-square-foot estate on about 17 acres in Buckhead's Paces neighborhood. It sold for $15 million in 2020 after earlier transactions, then became widely public again when Steve Harvey purchased it. That sale wasn't just lifestyle trivia. It showed how Perry moved from sleeping in a car to setting record-level prices in the city's luxury market. What makes his case even more distinct is how he uses capital. Perry has repeatedly invested in South and Southwest Atlanta areas that historically received fewer dollars than the city's North Side. The studio itself brought jobs, infrastructure, and new attention to that corridor. He has also pursued a broader Fort McPherson vision, with partners including plans for a public-facing entertainment district meant to generate tourism, retail, and community benefit over the next several years. Whether every element lands exactly as proposed, the intent is clear: anchor a long-term economic engine in the part of Atlanta that raised him. Perry's public life includes philanthropy as well: donations to housing initiatives, disaster relief, education, and direct assistance to individuals in crisis. He's also been outspoken about discipline within family and business, emphasizing work ethic over handouts. That outlook aligns with his entire arc. He sees dignity in earning and durability in structure. It's important to note that his career, like any major public figures, has not been without controversy. A civil lawsuit filed in 2025 accused him of sexual harassment and assault. Perry's attorney has denied the claims, and the case is still unresolved. Mentioning this doesn't diminish his business impact. It simply keeps the picture honest while the legal process runs its course. So why does Tyler Perry sit at the top of Atlanta's black wealth conversation? Because he didn't just become successful inside somebody else's system. He built a system, one rooted in land, large-scale production capacity, and a catalog that keeps earning decades after release. In a city already rich with black talent and enterprise, Perry represents the modern extreme of what happens when creative vision meets real asset strategy. He is not merely a star who lives in Atlanta. He's a builder who helped make Atlanta a global production capital and who will likely keep shaping its economy for a long time to come. Atlanta's Black Mecca story is a symphony of ownership. The Levitt family turned service into a lasting institution. Mac Wilborn mastered the airport's captive audience. The Bronners built a beauty pipeline that shaped culture. Egbert Perry proved redevelopment can be both profitable and humane. The Russells literally built the skyline. Rick Ross converted fame into acreage and franchises. Tyler Perry scaled vision into a 330-acre studio kingdom. On Legends of Black Excellence, these examples prove wealth lasts when you own the system and reinvest in the people who support it. So which blueprint should lead tomorrow quiet builders or headline-making stars?